36-page report is a catalog of police misconduct, allegedly perpetrated by nearly a dozen members of the 35-officer gang strike force and possibly more. It says they took home recreational equipment such as jet skis and an ice auger, as well as computers and jewelry and tools. The items were all seized from suspected criminals, but few of the seizures resulted in actual charges or even investigations. The review panel found officers repaid the strike force pennies on the dollar for some of the items and nothing for the rest. Former federal prosecutor Andy Lugar co-chaired the investigation into the strike force, funded by the State Department of Public Safety.
One example was notable, and a number of people told us about it, where an officer brought a large screen television home for that officer's child as a present. Some witnesses described the situation regarding televisions as, quote, a free-for-all.
Lugar says other seized property has simply vanished from the now-closed strike force offices in New Brighton, including snowblowers, baseball cards, and even a set of dining room chairs.
It's criminal.
Again, attorney Andy Lugar.
It's going to be for the FBI and the United States Attorney's Office to determine, but if you take something home that doesn't belong to you and you know it doesn't belong to you, that's a crime.
The report also documents a wide range of apparent professional lapses by strike force members. Some officers allegedly snooped through the National Criminal Information Center database for personal use, left loaded guns unmarked in an evidence room, and kept no written record at all for some cases. The report also suggests widespread civil rights violations. It says strike force officers routinely comb through the information in cell phones belonging to people they stopped in the street without search warrants. The report also tells of officers acting on a dubious tip about a drug suspect retrieving a car. The officers allegedly laid in wait for Hispanic car owners at the Minneapolis impound lot. Lugar said police seized more than $4,000 in cash from a Honduran man who showed up at the impound lot and $100 from a Mexican man.
Neither men had any drugs on them. Neither man was ever accused of trying to pick up a car with drugs in them, but all the money was seized and not given back. Both men were undocumented aliens and are now facing deportation.
Minnesota Public Safety Commissioner Michael Campion ordered the report. His agency acted as a pass-through for some of the gang unit's funding.
I am disappointed, disturbed, and troubled by the findings. I know the Metro Gang Strike Force has done some great work over the years, but I also know that some officers took part in unethical and highly questionable conduct. Conduct that is not consistent with the high standards that we expect from law enforcement here in Minnesota.
Campion said he'll call for reforms in law enforcement oversight and funding at the legislature. The report says the unit's lack of supervision from existing law enforcement agencies left the strike force without enough accountability. The report says such task forces should be prohibited. It also says the state should consider changing forfeiture laws so that law enforcement agencies can't depend on seizures for a major part of their operating funding. West St. Paul Police Chief Bud Shaver chairs the group of police chiefs that ran the strike force, although he didn't have day-to-day oversight of the operation. Shaver declined to talk about specifics in the report. He said the investigation was difficult but necessary.
As a public entity, we need to be transparent. We need to be answerable to any kind of allegation. And that's what this process is about. And so as arduous as it is, we'll endure it. And hopefully at the end, we'll have some good lessons learned, and we'll be able to conduct gang enforcement in a much better fashion.
The report does not name any individual officers, and Lugar says many of them refused to talk to the review panel about the strike force. The report also doesn't link any alleged wrongdoing with a specific agency, although participating police forces will be briefed privately about the officers from their department. The report and its documentation will be turned over to the FBI, which is already investigating the strike force. 4 legislative committees will also meet jointly next week to hear about the report and potential changes to the way multi-agency police units work. Tim Nelson, Minnesota Public Radio News.